Welcome back to The Bachelor Show with your host, WiBit the Frog. Our bachelorette today is Chick.
Hello, WiBit.
Hello. And our lucky bachelors are Objective-C, Sup, Java,
Hello.
and Buzz the Fly.
My first question is for Objective-C. If I were a lollipop, would you lick me to the sweet center?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that? My iPod was too loud.
Java, if I were sad, how would you comfort me?
Java.console exception.
What? Fly, if we were on a romantic weekend together, and due to a snowstorm, we were stuck in our room all day, what would you do? Where did you find these guys?
I am so sorry.
Objective-C. What have you always wanted to buy but never got around to?
Seriously? I can't imagine a circumstance where that would happen. I mean, yeah, I'm 30, but my parents give me an allowance so I can buy whatever I want.
Java, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
That is a great question. You see...
No. You know what? F*** this. I'm out.
Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the WiBit.net podcast, recorded live on October 20th, 2011.
Hello.
This week we're going to talk about the new line of WiBit.net iOS apps. We're also going to talk about the Java course. Yeah, it's out, but is it done? Jason has a lot of updates about some really cool features that he has added to the site. Ice cream sandwich? No thanks, I'm not hungry. Let's have a discussion about the new line of Android software, hardware, and Apple software and hardware. Was it a bit of a letdown? Let's talk about it. And also, what does Brian have against QR codes? I don't know. We also have some very stunning statistics about internet usage in the year 2010. All this and a lot more are coming up on the WiBit.net podcast. For more content, you can find us on iTunes, wibit.podomatic.com, facebook.com/wibit, and of course, the greatest website in the entire world, wibit.net. Hey guys, welcome back to the WiBit.net podcast. Well, not really, hey everybody, welcome back. But why do I keep saying welcome back? What are we on, a commercial break or something? Hey guys, welcome to the WiBit.net podcast. And tonight we have a wonderful, exciting show for you. And I have the entire crew online. Brian, Jason, and Gary. What's up, guys?
Hey, Kev.
Howdy.
Brian?
Yeah, how's it going?
You're just not going to say hi to me?
Oh, I did. It was.
You did. Here's first one up.
Just got muffled into the huge crowd that's online right now.
I just went right to left on my Skype window. I see Brian on the right, JT, and then Gary.
That's funny because I'm standing on the left.
And I'm right behind you.
We have a great show tonight, and we're going to start the podcast off like we usually do with the updates. And Brian, let me ask you what's going on with the iOS apps.
All right. Well, programming in C is on its way to the App Store, which is really exciting. And so that's the first app that we're going to have out there with all the labs and everything. Now we had some debate and we had some issues with the 2 apps that are out there. There was some compatibility issues with the 2nd generation iPod devices.
Boo!
Yeah, right. So we fixed it, it's fine, but in doing so, we had to slightly downgrade the quality of the videos. So what we found is that watching the labs on like a iPhone 3G or an iPod Touch 2G, there's not enough pixels on the screen for you to actually be able to see what the hell's going on. So, I mean, you can't read the code, you can't see what we're clicking on, it's just too tiny of a device. So one of the things we had to decide was that the apps are only going to be supported on devices with a Retina display or iPods, because those are the only devices with enough pixels to actually be able to clearly see the labs and clearly see the content in the courses.
iPads, you mean? You said iPods.
Sorry, iPads and devices with Retina displays. So and I don't think that'll be too bad, but I think what would be worse is people getting the apps and trying to watch them on the device, and it's useless, So
Yeah, that kind of threw us into a little bit of a frenzy, because when we were kind of doing all the testing and the simulators and then on our devices, we were very kind of shocked to see that the video codec that works on all the devices does not work on the earlier devices, but Apple does not allow us to say this is only an iPhone, an iPhone 4 or iPhone 3 app. We can't specify by device. That's just kind of frustrating.
So I'll just say that Apple limits their devices to make development easier, but even at that, it's still really difficult to accommodate all conditions of all devices and all orientations of all devices.
So
but
we have iOS fragmentation.
Yeah, but absolutely. But to be honest, having to deal with the entire field of Android devices is more difficult.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just being snarky.
No. But I think the Apple could have done a much better job blending some of those between devices. But
I think something simple like, I don't know, the most standard video codec in the world should be able to function on all the Apple devices. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
if you're going to support that weird, stupid Apple codec that blows up videos to 9,000 megabytes for 2 minutes, you should be able to support 264 encoding. Sorry.
Yeah, put in like a patch branch for 4.2. Whatever, just for legacy support, so that you push the codec support back. Like keep them backwards compatible. It's not that big of a deal. Whatever.
Well, even PlayStation. I mean, every iteration of PlayStation only is backwards compatible to the previous generation. I mean, I don't think you can play PlayStation 1 games on a PlayStation 3. So I think everybody kind of draws a line and says, buy new stuff.
That's true. Yep.
And that's unfortunately the decision that we had to make. Yeah. We didn't want to make that decision, but that's the only realistic decision we had left.
And Apple apps like Pages, Numbers, Keynote, things like that, their new updates are for OS 5.0 only and on. So they stay very strict with, if you have an older device and you had it installed, that's fine. But
they have an incentive. You going out and buying an expensive toy that they get 99% profit from.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, like Brian was saying, we have the new apps coming out and we're pretty excited about it. A lot of people have been using the apps, and one thing that we find kind of cool is that on the website nobody watches the intro to object-oriented programming, but that is our best-selling app right now.
Yeah, which makes me happy, because I think it's a great course. I think there's a lot of people who never make that transition appropriately between learning how to program and learning how to programming in object-oriented programming languages. Yeah. I think a lot of people program in object-oriented programming languages, but don't really know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised it's not more popular than it is. I think it's a great course.
Also in WiBit.net news is we finally got a few of the Java labs out that we were trying to get out. Brian and I had promised that we were going to come out with a basic Android tutorial, which we're starting to kind of move on. We got like an introduction to using Java IDE, which we use NetBeans, and then Brian and I got out a Hey Buddy style Android app, and we have yet to finish the editing on the basic Android app, where we actually get to build a user interface using the XML and all that stuff. So that'll be coming out hopefully in another week or so. We have been making strides to get that done, and we've gotten a lot of it done. We just haven't gotten the money load done yet.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
So Jason, I have noticed that you've done a lot of really cool things with the website.
Yeah. I think the coolest thing that I've added recently, and it might be the coolest feature on the site besides the videos themselves, is the new search feature that is at the bottom of every page. You have the search box. If you need to find anything on the fly, you want to find a definition for polymorphism, for example, you can just type in polymorphism and it'll take you to a search result that, it prioritizes everything appropriately. So, if polymorphism is specific to a course, which it's not, but if it was, that would be the first result. And then from there, the lesson returns, which there is a polymorphism lesson in Introduction to Object-Oriented Programming. That's the first result. And then from there on, down the list it goes. It gives you not just prioritized returns in terms of what type of content it is, but also relevancy. And you can filter the results by type of content or by author. Pretty cool. It works pretty fast.
And it searches the forums, which is really cool.
Yep. Searches the forums. It searches basically everything on the site. And as one of the things we're going to start moving on here soon is the user profiles. When those are a little bit more fleshed out, those will be available too. Right now, if you're logged in as a user, you can search for other users, but there's not a whole lot of information that you're going to be able to see on other users. We're looking to expand on that here soon. Another couple of things we've added to the site recently are, some people call them annoyances, but I call them features. is the little pop up every time you try to view a course. It tells you that the course is available on iTunes if you're trying to watch that course on an iPhone or an iPad. That's just in case you didn't know that we have the apps. Every course that has an app will alert you to it every time you try to see it, so that you know that it's there and you can go grab it. Other than that, a lot of little things have been done here and there. I'll detail them more in the newsletter and in the updates that everybody sees when I do them when they log in. So
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to add, I'm kind of a little behind the game on this, but I was just talking to the guys in the pre-show that I finally got an opportunity to check out the Windows 8 developer preview, and it sucks. Moving on. We had a discussion before the podcast about Ice Cream Sandwich and also the new line of Android and the new iPhone, and how we kind of feel we're not that fired up about it.
I watched I didn't watch any kind of live blogging or anything with the Android Sandwich release because they were out in Hong Kong and it was late night. But looking at the specs to the new Galaxy Nexus or whatever it's called, the Nexus Galaxy, and just looking at what Ice Cream Sandwich brings to the table, I'm not seeing a big push in like we've seen in previous years. I mean, it seemed like every time a new iPhone came out or a new version of Android came out, there was all kinds of buzz about all these cool new features. Ice Cream Sandwich seems like it's just basically taking the best parts of Honeycomb and WebOS and putting them into the phone flavor of Android. And the specs on the Galaxy Nexus are like last year's specs. I don't even think it has a dual core processor. So, and then the iPhone 4S, okay, Siri's cool, but it's not that cool. Other than that, the A5 processor, okay, sure, I get it. That's cool too, but nothing's really blowing me away anymore. I mean, it seems like this year is a real down year in terms of innovation and pushing it forward.
Maybe just as a counterpoint for the sake of it, I agree with Ice Cream Sandwich being kind of anticlimactic. I think it was very difficult for the Google developers to try to merge those two together to have the phone and the tablets together in one code base. And I think it was a lot of maintenance work, and I think it was a lot of like down and dirty, low level kind of work that nobody probably wants to do. So probably keeping them stable and keeping them merged was just something that had to just jump back, bite the bullet, invest the time in, and try to get them all to smush together into Ice Cream Sandwich.
Well,
which is probably why we're not seeing a lot of features in it, because it's about stability, it's about merging the code base, and then also kind of changing about what open source means too, from a Google point of view, and shifting how the licensing is going to change and how the legal aspects are going to change.
Funny you should mention that, because one of the features they're touting kind of quietly but also very loudly at the same time is that Ice Cream Sandwich should be patent infringement free, so that Apple or nobody else can sue them over copyright infringements.
Yeah, so I think it was a lot of like shoring up your fork kind of work, and it's never fun for anybody to do that kind of work, but I think it'll probably help the Android platform in the long run. And I think with the iPhone 4S, the phone's pretty, the camera's pretty awesome. Siri is pretty cool. I think one of the things that's tough is our expectations that they can change, they can like revolutionize mobile phones year after year is tough.
Yeah, haven't we kind of seen that exact same trend though with laptops and computing in general? I mean, do you remember when we were maybe in high school or so, every year it was 64 megs of RAM. Wow, 128, 256, 512, 2 gigs. I'm never gonna need 2 gigs of RAM. And then all of a sudden it turned into, all right, the speed's about the same, the hard drives are about the same, and it's been like that for years.
That's true, but like full HD video recording, the quality of the photos that you can take is really nice.
Yeah.
Like Siri's pretty cool. Reminders isn't too bad. The new notification center is great, I think. I think the way it all integrates together, some of the calendar improvements, the browser improvements on the iPad, like I don't know.
I think what I'm hearing then is I think what we're kind of saying is that the innovation period is kind of slowing down, and now it's refinement time.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, but also keep in mind that when Apple kind of comes out with these S-line devices, they're kind of the stop in between the major releases.
Yeah, it's like stabilize and perform and speed enhancement.
Right. So we've actually been kind of accustomed to that, at least from Apple, for a couple of years now.
Yeah, because 3GS was no big.
Right. So maybe what they have in store next is going to be that next exciting, fun device. But there seems to be kind of an every 2-year gap where we see a massive push.
Yeah, I think the surprise will be what they're going to do with those dual processors, the speed of the phone, the rest of it, what the developers can do with it and turn out for the next model.
Yeah.
Well, Android kind of does the same thing too then. I mean, Android 2.0 came out a while ago, but all the excitement came with 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, and then 3.0 was kind of a separate branch for tablets only.
Yep.
So now they have 4.0. Well, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 might be the...
JT, you there?
I think JT, I told him what the off while we were on the podcast.
But I think the best way to run a development group is to have the group focus on stabilization and then enhancement. Because anytime you enhance a product, you increase the number of defects that you're going to get, and then you make the next wave stabilizing it, then enhancing, stabilizing, and so on. And you don't want all of your products to destabilize at the same time, because how much effort it takes to stabilize will offset how many enhancements you have to be able to invest in.
Well, I think that one of the best ways that Apple can stabilize their environment is to not use their SDK that they have. I mean, I'm dead damn serious when I say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
Apple.
a lot
I mean,
of defects in 5.0.
You know, that's kind of a big problem, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Because of how inconsistent that framework is laid out. You have a lot of developers that, and even when you go and you look for help and you look for people that are offering Apple development help, a lot of it are these really weird workarounds where you're using objects and stuff in a way that they're really not intended to use, but it solves your problem. That kind of adds to the destabilization of applications, I think. And it's since it's all written in native code, you can actually slow down the operating system when you have a poorly written app. And the App Store is not going to catch all the poorly written apps. I doubt they even catch the majority of poorly written apps. I have apps crash my operating system on my iPhone 4 all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Once an app is stable on an iOS device, it seems like it's very stable.
Yeah. They do seem to get better and better and better.
Yeah, a stable iOS app is like rock solid, though.
Like the introduction to computer programming apps that we have here
Exactly.
at WiBit.net. And the upcoming C, programming in C app coming from
Which is going to be,
WiBit.net.
I can't wait for that app. That's going to be awesome.
I'm going to watch it all the time. I'm going to watch it at work. I'm going to listen to it when I drive. It's going to be great.
You know, it does feel like a transition period, though, at Apple, not only because of, the death of Jobs, but what came out, as far as the release of the phone, the iCloud came out. I called their help desk, who in the past year has been flawless. I'd call them, I get an answer, I got to the right person. And in the last few days, they have been scrambling. The guy's trying to read off a sheet. He didn't know what it was. He had no idea where to go with it. Had to get a senior advisor and still couldn't answer the question. Then I got disconnected. That never happened before it happened.
Wow.
And he even said we're like in a free for all right here, trying to figure out what iCloud's supposed to do. It's like they put that out there and weren't sure what it was going to do, or nobody told anybody.
People to actually be calling about issues about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem was the transition, because when you log on, because I was a mobile me user, so I was used to having data up there and storing the data on different devices. Well, iCloud doesn't do that anymore. And much to my chagrin, so now it's Dropbox for me. But it took a while on that phone call to finally get through to understand that what they're basically doing is only allowing storage of data that fits pages, numbers, and their processing their personal programs. They're not going to store anything, images or anything else, other than the things that go in their applications.
Well, and even at that, it's only for a limited span of time.
Right.
But I think really they shouldn't have called it iCloud. They should have really called it iSync.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
iCloud is really or iSuck. I mean, the only thing it will store, the only things that it stores long term are like your contacts and a backup of your device up to 5 gigs for however many devices you have.
But it will
store those for a while.
It will store long term documents directly out of Pages and out of the Keynote.
Because they used to have iDisk, and iDisk used to be similar to Dropbox.
And maybe they had a patent infringement or something, because they can't do that anymore.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Sorry, I dropped out there for a second, guys. My internet connection went dead. Thank you, Comcast.
We didn't actually realize you were gone. We were just continuing.
Yeah, right. Now we figure we just, whatever.
I mean, actually, when you were gone,
that's fine. No, just tell me how you really feel. Don't care about my feelings.
When you were gone, I did notice that annoying ring in my ear disappeared for a few minutes. And then I realized, that's Jason's voice. Okay. That's right.
Well, those are the best 2 minutes of my life then.
Oh yeah. Well, last thing I'll say is, but it is really nice to be able to have, especially the synchronization between the iPhone and the iPad. What I find is that if you have a desktop as your base of operations, that tends to be the best situation. So if you have iTunes and you have, let's say a Macintosh desktop in an ideal Apple world, you have an iPhone and you have an iPad. You take your pictures, you edit a document, you add a contact, whatever the case is, and iCloud will sync them between the devices, and that's all fine and well. It'll also kind of push them over to your desktop. The photos will be in iPhoto, your contacts will be in whatever. Everything's all synced up. but your desktop should be backed up, I feel, with something like Dropbox.
Yeah, I agree.
Dropbox
So
can do
you-
all those other things too, though. I don't know if it does it on iOS.
Yeah,
but I know
right.
on
It doesn't.
Android,
It doesn't really integrate like that, but it will be a solid hosted offsite storage, which is
Right.
great. It has versioning. It's reliable. It's fast. It's excellent. It's amazing. You can install it on basically any platform. It's great. So you sync with your base of operations, then you back up your base of operations to something like Dropbox. I think that's the best setup, personally.
Okay, moving on, gentlemen. I know that Brian wanted to have a quick discussion about QR codes, which for those of you guys that don't know, those are those little weird boxy things with the black dots everywhere, the quick response codes. So Brian, what was it about QR codes that was driving you crazy?
Well, whenever I see QR codes, they make me angry.
I agree.
And I'm not exactly sure why. So I was kind of hoping that just to get your guys' points of view on QR codes as well. For some reason, it's like I see them at the anchor stores at the mall, and I see them at like just random places, like a library or a bookstore or whatever the case, on products and stuff. And I would never be walking around like at a Subway. I'd never be at a Subway, walk by an advertisement on the screen and be like, oh, there's a QR code. I'm going to hold my phone up, take a picture of it, and go to their website.
I think a lot of people do that, though.
But who?
I don't know.
And why?
I did it at the
Oh, okay.
Harbor.
Jason
Oh,
did
that
it.
explains it.
There you go. Idiots do it. That too. And I'm well, no. One thing, I think a lot of people use the QR code incorrectly, and I think the inner harbor in Baltimore uses them fairly well. What they've done there is that every animal tank there's a QR code, and you scan it, and it doesn't go back to their website. It'll take you to like a YouTube video that gives you an explanation of that animal, kind of a documentary of that animal. So it's
That's
relevant.
cool.
So if you want a little bit more information about, I don't know, the blind-eared muskrat or something, I just made that animal up, but you can scan the QR code by its tank or its cage, and it'll take you to the video about it, and you can hear more about it on your phone.
Yeah, that's cool. I could see that. That's awesome.
I mean, that's the way QR codes should be used. They shouldn't be used to just send you to the brand's website, because that's lame. But if it does something to enhance the experience while you're there doing something, I could see that being cool. Also, with QR codes, a lot. If you go to the grocery store, they're going to be on the bottom of your meat a lot of times. If you scan the QR code there, that's more for like business function, but it'll tell you when your meat was packaged.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, because that's the information embedded in that QR code for their inventory purposes, but your phone is able to discern it, so you're able to tell how fresh your meat is.
Oh, I know how fresh my
I was
meat
going to
is.
say, I was waiting for that
I
one.
was waiting for some kind of joke about that, but
All right, you just convinced me. I just added the QR code reader to my phone.
well, before you go QR crazy, Gary, Mashable.com today put out an article about a new security threat, infected QR codes. Be
Oh,
careful
nice.
next time you scan a QR code, it just might cost you money or wreak havoc on your smartphone.
Well, that's true, because I think that a lot of smartphones will allow QR codes to actually activate pieces of hardware. So it not only can it launch a web browser, but it can also access things like your photos or send like a text message or something like that. And sometimes they'll just launch a browser that runs to a page that has malicious code on it.
Yep.
You know what we should do?
Kaspersky is the lab that is actually identifying the threat and championing. I don't know how to say that word.
Champion.
Championing. I don't know.
Championing?
Whatever.
Hold it, come on,
They're
buddy.
yelling
You can do
about
this.
They're the ones that are yelling about this. I give up.
So, what we should do is we should print out stickers that have a QR code that takes you to one of those Shepherd Ferry Obey Andre the Giant posters, and just start slapping them on everything. Anytime you see one, like a Martha Stewart QR code, just slap the sticker on top.
Did you
That's a
guys
good
hear
idea.
what just happened?
What?
Like delayed and then sped up real
Yeah,
fast.
your voice cut off, and then what happened was Skype just flooded your voice in, and you talked like a chipmunk for a minute.
Anyway, so maybe that's a new type of graffiti. You print out falsified QR codes and slap them on top of other product QR codes. Nobody would know the difference until they go to check out information about the musket, two-eared musket rat. And they get a picture of Andre the Giant's face, and it says "Obey."
Well, actually, Brian, I know that you brought up a little bit ago, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to ask you about this.
Oh,
So didn't you say something about the 2010 internet usage was quite substantial?
yeah. There's an article on Mashable talking about how more data was transmitted over the internet in 2010 than all previous years combined. And what's interesting about that is that's not really surprising.
Yeah.
Like that's not a shocking fact. I think
In a related statistic that I just made up, more free porn sites were launched in 2010 than in any year previously.
And Jason was actually behind every single one of them.
Nice.
Absolutely.
But I think the
Look at my manboobs.com.
actually I'm gonna go there right now. Does that exist? Because if it's not, we should register it. So one of the things that's interesting about Moore's law and exponential growth.
Oh, you're going to bring electronics into this now.
Well, I think because it affects the way it affects electronics affects the speed and the storage rates. Do you know what I mean? And the speed and storage rates open up new opportunities for how we use the devices, and that encourages more data or more everything. It's all kind of part of the whole system. You know what I mean? And that the effect on electronics is kind of like the part of the base of it. So I don't know if you can oversimplify it so much and say that all technology grows at an exponential rate, but it's pretty close to it. And that's why this statistic doesn't really seem very surprising. We're like, oh yeah, 2009, that seems like 50 years ago as far as the internet's concerned. I mean, so much changes. It's tough to like comprehend it and keep up with it and stuff. I mean, just go to any kind of internet archive and just go to some random page, jump back 2 years, and you'd be like, that was only 2 years ago? Whoa, that's weird.
Well, I think that gets back to something I brought up a few podcasts ago, and I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or before, but news seems to be moving a lot faster to me now.
Yes.
It might not be because I'm getting older. It might also be because data is just flowing back and forth so much faster. It also might be why that it seems like this year the phones are a letdown because we're so used to all this stuff just growing and exploding so fast.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that's really tricky about exponential growth, if this is exponential growth, and I guess that's debatable, it's almost impossible for humans to comprehend just the idea of what exponential growth means.
Yeah,
we just can't process it. If you think about it, once that curve pokes, so once you start approaching that vertical limit, that's weird. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
I think America will be bankrupt in the next 20 years.
And I think David Bowie will return from space, man.
I think David Bowie will start his own country, Bomania, and that's where we'll all migrate to.
Oh yeah, I'd be there in a minute.
Huh? You guys can go ahead to Bomania, and when the zombie apocalypse hits, you're going to be stuck with your body glitter. I'm going to go to Nugeville, and when the zombie apocalypse hits, Ted Nugent will come out on a fiery steed and kill all the zombies with a single crossbow arrow.
Do it too.
I guess the only really good thing, guys, and I'll kind of say this on the way out, as technology progresses, even exponentially or not exponentially, that opens up more opportunities for software engineers. So that's why you guys have to keep coming to WiBit, keep learning from WiBit, and keep clicking on advertisements to give us some freaking money. Now, we don't want to be rich. We do want to cover our server costs. And Jason is actually saving up for a nose job. So,
and I'll also say, where all of us work and where all of us have worked and will be working, there's a huge shortage of developers at all of those places, at all of those companies.
Let me put it this way: there's a huge shortage of talent. There's a shortage of talent.
Yeah,
whether it's in numbers or in skill, there's a shortage of talent.
So if you enjoy developing, if you like programming, you get a job in a hurry. It's no joke. You can do what you like to do. I remember when Kevin and I started, we probably say this all the time. When we first got a job where we actually got to program stuff during the day, we were like, whoa, are we going to get in trouble? Because they're paying us to do this. I don't know if it's allowed. And they're just like, look, they like their job. This is crazy.
All right, guys. Well, that's the conclusion of this week's podcast. Until next week, everybody, or next time, or whenever. See you guys on the website, and goodbye.
MyManBoobs.com.
Jason'sManBoobs.com. Bye, everybody. Thank you for supporting WiBit.net. For more content, please check us out on iTunes, wibbit.podomatic.com, facebook.com/wibbit, and wibbit.net, WIBIT.net.
This. I'm out.